Hey viewers! This video will walk you through adding an installer to RollMaster. From the Master menu, head to Installation System, Installer Maintenance. In the Installer Maintenance screen, click Add in the lower right corner. First, you'll enter an installer ID using up to 8 alphanumeric characters. It's important to point out you will be adding the same ID to accounts payable as a vendor, but we'll cover that a little later in this tutorial. Enter the installer's name, address, and designate a pay type as applicable. The majority of installers do fall under subcontractor type. On a side note, the licensed contractor field applies only if you want the system to exclude labor overbill charges from all paid labor lines assigned to the installer. The employee piecework option allows an employee who is also an installer to be assigned piecework in the installer payable system, but without the system running through the post to accounts payable routine when the work is updated as paid. This employee piecework feature also allows you to skip the accounts receivable trade deduction process. Moving down to the specialty field, this is for recording a flooring or installation material that the installer specializes in. You'll have the chance to enter an installer telephone number as well as an email address. In the license ID field, this is where you would enter the contractor license ID and even a date as to when it expires if desired. Heading to the loan balance field, it should be noted that specific user control permissions must be enabled in User Control 4 in order to make any changes here. The loan balance and retained balance fields help keep track of any loan amounts which apply to a 1099 subcontractor. If these amounts exist at the time you're adding the new installer, go ahead and type them in here. Moving on to the retainage percent field, here in retainage, you can enter a percent deduction for installer retainage, as well as a limit amount. And once that limit has been met, the system will stop withholding any further retainage. WC stands for Workers' Compensation Percent, and this is also another field where you can enter a percentage deduction for the workers' compensation. LI stands for Liability Insurance and is very similar to the above field in that you can enter a percent deduction as well as an expiration date for this policy. A quick note about these expiration dates: if either policy has expired, it will show up in red while paying labor out in installer payables to alert you that the policy is past due. REG type is a field tied to the installer payroll register module. Here you can create a single-digit code to produce a breakdown of different categories on the installer payroll register. Keep in mind that using this field and the categories is optional. At pay rate, this is used mainly for employees and not subcontractors. If using the pay rate field, you'll need to add a labor product code for every possible rate, except time and a half and double time, which can be entered directly into those corresponding fields. At the trip charge field, this is informational and optional and is a spot to record what the installer would charge to go back on a job or to make a special trip outside of the installation area. At the last field, we have maximum installs per day. Entering a number here prevents booking more than a set number of installs per day for this installer. The default is 999, which equals unlimited. However, you typically might want to set this to about 1 or 2 installs per day to prevent from overbooking. When you're finished editing all the fields, click the Save button. At this point, you'll be prompted to add the installer to other branches if that applies. If so, click Yes, and you'll be brought to another window. You can click Select All, and this will add the installer to all other branches. However, if you only need to add the installer to specific branches, go ahead and click each branch as it applies. Please keep in mind that in order to pay an installer through installer payables for a certain job, the installer first must be active in that particular branch in order to pay them for that job. Once you've added the installer to any applicable branches, you can click on the eDocs button and use this to upload documents which are specific to this installer, such as an insurance certificate. The Preferred Excluded button will allow you to set this installer as a preferred installer or as an excluded installer for a Ship To code specific to a customer ID. Once finished, you can escape out of the screen and back to the master menu. The last step in setting up the installer is to navigate to Accounts Payable, Vendor Maintenance. Here, you will enter the exact same ID used in installer maintenance. Click Yes to add. You'll enter the installer's name and address. However, the most important field to take note of is the Social Security number field. Here, you will enter either the installer's Social Security number or tax ID number, and you will also want to make sure to set the vendor type to a subcontractor type. Finally, click Add to complete the process, and that will be the completion to your steps for adding a new installer to RollMaster.